You are live.
All right, I call this meeting to order. I'm at 5:42 p.m. on Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023. First call to order and roll call is next. Is member Debbie Yassick here? Debbie?
Yes, here.
Hey, Debbie. How about member Eileen Leahy?
I'm here.
Okay. And myself, Keanu Suk Brown, chair is also present. There are no comments. As far as I know, there are no comments today. So we're going to move forward to the approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve of these minutes?
I have a question. So
Absolutely.
the minutes that I looked at, they were supposed to be for our April 20th meeting, but it looked like they were from February 16th. Is that right? Regina, we got them last week. I just kind of looked at them today because of the way.
I think what you're looking at, if you look at the meeting minutes, it says that you approved the meeting minutes of 2/16 in the middle. That was the first item of business.
I see. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Mhm.
Great, thanks, Regina. So is there then a motion to approve these minutes if there aren't any other thoughts on them?
Yeah, so move.
Oh, wonderful. Second?
Right, second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Myself. Okay, moving forward, we have updates. Okay, amended reports, campaign fund report analysis, July 1st, 2022.
Okay, so I sent out the report analysis to you all, and the final open campaign report was the people from Keanu Smith Brown, and I did review that a campaign report, and it did all of the items that were requested were found, and it did zero out at a zero balance. It looks like probably it had just been some longstanding bookkeeping issues. Double things were taken out, or a couple of it was all mathematical, mostly just bookkeeping errors that seemed to just come up to that $304. So there was sufficient documentation that was also shown to support it. So in my mind, it's compliant, and that would be my recommendation.
Amen. So do we move then to confirm this final campaign report analysis, or to?
Well, I was just going to ask, Debbie, do you want to go ahead, and you and I can handle this one, and then we'll look at it as an overall one that can be put to rest. So,
Sure.
any questions, Debbie, or any specifics?
No, it looked good to me.
I mean, I had shared with you all what the deficiencies were, and
Exactly.
you had all that information for your own review. And
Yes.
I'm looking at it now, and I don't see anything other than that. So I would move for this one as our final one. We accept this final amended report as submitted. So I'll move for that, and if you can second,
I second.
and then all in favor.
Aye.
Okay. So that's the last one. The only other changes that were shown on this last report was Friends of Scott Gibson. He did file his final amended report, which was compliant, and surplus funds to the city of Annapolis were paid and verified. We had just needed some additional information from him, but we had reviewed his prior. So I would like to, excuse me, make a motion that we accept this most current campaign fund report analysis as our final campaign report analysis for the campaign fund reports that reported from November 3rd, 2021 to June 26, 2022.
All right, is there a second for that?
I second that.
Okay.
Finally. Yay.
All in favor of this?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
So of course, this was important to get done because the next reports have to be done on July 3rd.
Yeah.
Now, Madam Clerk, would that, I know I received that email and I took it mainly because we didn't yet finalize everything tonight. So moving forward, I will no longer have to file, correct?
Yes.
Yes, you do. You have to file from June 26, 2022 through the deadline of Sunday prior to the July 1st deadline. I think it's the 28th.
So,
But you're finalized out, right?
yeah, I believe that was my
Oh,
final. Yeah,
okay.
that was my final report.
I'm sorry, then the answer is no.
Okay, thanks. Just wanted to make sure.
So there should be 5 closed campaigns.
Mhm.
Friends of George Gallagher, People for Keanu Smith Brown, Friends of Katie George, Friends of Scott Gibson, and Monica for Ward 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that will leave 10. There should be 13 reports coming in. And I believe Regina was getting ready to send out, or did already send out, a reminder that these need to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
So
Okay. Yes, she did, and thank you for sending that out. That's why I was clarifying. All right. Well, is there anything else on this point?
well, I think we need to make a plan for how we're going to do the next batch because they're going to be here in July.
Sure.
So I think between, you, Keanu, and Debbie, I mean, I'm certainly willing to help it. For me to do it again doesn't mean that anybody else is going to learn how to do it. So I think
Right.
it's really important for you all to plan to be the first eyes on it. There is a checklist that you can use for it. And I'm happy to be the second set of
Yeah.
eyes, but
I'll do it.
well, I think you can split it up. I mean, technically, in the past, we've always had everybody look, there's always been at least 2 sets of eyes looked at it.
Okay.
So if you guys want to split the first round, one takes 7, one takes 6,
Mm-hmm.
and then send them to me and I'll look at them. Or if you want to swap, whatever you want to do. We used to, when we met in person, it was nice because we could just sit at the table.
I
and
know.
round robin it, but
Well, we can meet in
gonna
person, right?
say.
Because the
Yeah.
garage opened, right?
Yeah,
Aren't we
Madam-
only Zooming because the garage wasn't open?
that was what it.
I don't know the answer to that question, but I'll check into it for you.
Yeah.
Okay. This year we may all get to see each other.
Yay.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
that's
that's
all
fine
I
by
want.
me. That's fine by me, especially, and if we can meet in person, that'd be even better. But that's fine by me. Debbie, if you want to, however we want to do that.
Okay.
I'd love to learn that process. Definitely learned a lot through this anyway. So, all right. So that's what we'll do. Eileen will be able to lead there, and thank you for everything up to this point. Okay. So if there isn't anything else on that, we're going to go to the update from the 4/13/23 meetings of the task force to study the city municipal elections. So Eileen, if you'd like to start, and
Okay,
we'll gladly.
so I guess since we all met, task force met on April 26th. And at that time, they invited David Garris, who's the director of the Anne Arundel County Board of Elections, to be there. And I think David gave a lot of really good information. There's a lot of good questions. And the task force members are really just trying to, I think, gather as much information as they can at this point. And then on May 10th, the task force, I think that's, yes, the task force met again. And that time they met with Ashley Leonard to get some information from the Office of Law's perspective on the elections. Some specific items that came up was like the MOU, how does that work? How does the municipal code correlate or doesn't correlate with the state? And so she was able to provide a lot of useful information. Excuse me. At that time, there was planning done for conducting a public hearing to be held tomorrow, May 24th. I know that they have contacted Mitchell Stevenson, who has sent out a press release and a number of social media posts, contacted a number of organizations, and hopefully trying to build some momentum to get some feedback. Unfortunately, I believe to this date, there was just one online form that's been submitted so far. So we'll wait and see if we don't
So
have.
it is
Go ahead.
online.
Yes, everything's online as far as how, with instructions on how to sign up to view, how to sign up to participate, and very specific instructions. And then people also can always submit an online form to the task force itself. So my understanding is if no one signs up for the public hearing, I don't believe that we can meet because it's not the agenda. So we'll probably do another one. I do know that they're working on creating some subcommittees to begin addressing certain issues, and then also to reach out and try to meet maybe in person with certain community groups and maybe get some feedback that way. I think that's it. Do you have anything else you can think of, Regina, to add? So,
No, ma'am, I think you covered everything.
so lots of good questions. I would recommend they still contact Jared DeMoranis. I think they're going to contact the Municipal League and try to get some more information. Excuse me.
Okay.
Is there anything you all would like for me to take back to them?
No, hey Debbie, did you get an opportunity at all to look at the past meetings?
Yeah, I listened to the 426 meeting, and that was it so far.
Okay.
But now I'm done with the wedding, so I can concentrate more.
Yeah, it's been
And
good.
I'll go back and catch up. I'll watch them all.
Okay. Well, for me, you may wonder why I took a lot of time actually going through, and I've been watching all of them, and there was one that meeting, and this was the last one that I did want to bring up, this list that I've created, just to highlight some of the things that were said and to also make clear moving forward about some of the things that were said. So Debbie, and you'll probably, when you watch it, you'll understand, but I'll give you some quotes so that you can kind of be up to speed. So at 32:30 in the meeting, so 32 minutes and 30 seconds, this is when this started. The comments were made. It said, I want to provide a little context for my fellow task force members. One of the things that has concerned me is that the current chair of the Board of Supervisors of Elections candidly likely was not qualified to serve on the board. The code, for reasons which should be apparent to keep politics out of the Board of Supervisors of Elections, prohibits candidates from serving. He still has an open campaign account, though I will say that that has been rectified. And I think at the next Board of Supervisors of Elections meeting, it will be officially closed, for which he signs as a candidate. And it raises some concerns about the interference of politics in the board itself and the potential for that. So that's the first comment that was made at 32:30. And for clarity, Gavin could not appoint me to this board without my account being closed. When I received a phone call sharing from Lonnie Morris, sharing that I was of interest to be appointed to this board, a part of that process included that I had to close my campaign account within the days that I would be appointed. And I did my best, absolute best, to get everything I needed done to do that. And so it's quite questionable why no one spoke up or clarified that for him. And, it seemed as if it was quite accepting of these lies and when I think about Martin Luther King Jr., in the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. And I do want to also clarify that this person does not know me personally. Scott does not know me personally, and we have barely crossed paths. So not only was his actions, comments grounded in falsehood, he acted as if he was a talking piece for someone else. He was sharing information only we would know, such as about actions that would take place at our next meeting about my account. So how could he assume this without someone saying that to him? Have any of you spoken to him about our board, our actions, and or our business? That's the first question that I have.
I mean, our meetings are public and people watch them and listen to them. But I had contacted him about closing his account and putting his money somewhere. But we never spoke about. That never came up. Never thought of it. No.
Okay.
I mean, in my mind, you're appointed to the board legitimately, so there's no further question.
That's
And he
right.
never brought it up. Neither of us did.
That's what I thought.
So
Well, I know Eileen, your hand is raised. I do have many other points to make, but if this is in reference to this, then please feel free.
could you please just talk about?
Yes,
You
Vinny
referred
asked
to a line of
about,
falsehood. Do you have a specific
yes,
falsehood?
so Vinny asked Ashley about eligibility and says, when the election code is read in concert with the ethics code, this is at 33:42, 33 minutes, 42 seconds. When the election code is read in concert with the ethics code, a candidate, a committee chair, or a committee treasurer would be prohibited from serving on the Board of Supervisors of Elections. One scenario, that concerns me that could happen with the very next election. This is at 34:05. One scenario that concerns me that could happen with the very next election is that you can have somebody very much involved in reform of the election code or in setting up how the election would operate, leave the board and immediately jump into an election. It's not uncommon to see a required cooling off period when people serve in certain public roles to make sure that things like that can't happen, that they can't benefit from their prior public service. So how dare this white man try to dictate what I do? I mean, who does he think that he
I
is?
don't think,
He's not my mother, nor is he my partner or anyone else of
I
value in my life. So it clearly looks as if he needs to look at himself inside it out. And were the priorities that we sent not supported by all of us? Isn't the priorities that we sent supported by all of us?
yes, so I'm going to go back to it. And I think what you're discussing, my takeaway at the task force was questions about the code, and that, yes, this was used as a current example. So again, I have to ask you, can you tell me what is the falsehood, the specific falsehood? Because the election code does say that you can't have an open, you can't have an open campaign. And one of the things that has been discussed already at the task force is the idea that there's a lot of vagueness. And so one of the things that's very vague is, when is a person not a candidate, or when are they a candidate? I was asked this question. I believe that the task force members that were asking or were involved, all of this information that you've talked about has been shared in a public forum on our meetings. So I don't think there was any. And when Mr. Gibson did ask me about it, I referred him to the Office of Law. So you may want to discuss, and I believe he did talk about what the Office of Law had responded to him in terms of his question. So I did not.
At the time, my account was not rectified because
Your account has been open since.
It was after that meeting that I sent everything. It was not. He did not know. It was after our meeting, our public meeting, that was clarified for us. It was after that meeting that I sent everything to you all, and also we never said that at the next meeting that my campaign account or the reporting would be closed. We never said that. Also, moving forward, not knowing at the time that the concern would be addressed because the active campaign account went on for such a long period of time. This is at 35:27. It caused me to wonder about what, if any, procedures there are to remove a member of the Board of Supervisors of Elections once they are appointed and confirmed. I was one of the most communicative and active persons throughout the campaign reporting process, yet these comments were made specific to me. Why do you think that is? He spoke of his campaign issues so lightly and never mentioned about the campaigns that were almost into court or required late fees. I've been sent my remaining funds to the city of Annapolis and to the Annapolis Democratic Central Committee, unlike what he says took him so long to decide. He never mentioned his political articles written about his advocacy on a nonpartisan election. Is this not political now that he is on the task force and advocating for this? He never mentioned the truth of other people who have positions on boards, commissions, or currently in our government that have used this to get their projects, developments, policies passed, nor the white persons who have for years abused the system in their favor. It gives me racist prejudice, and I question his mental state of being, knowing he could spew such lies and manipulate the platform he was unwisely given as acting chair while Ian was away. At 38:58, thank you. One last question on this train of thought before I hand it over to Andrew. So it's clear that someone cannot serve as a candidate, a campaign chairman, or a campaign treasurer and serve on the board of supervisors of elections. But there are a lot of ways that people can be highly engaged or influential in campaigns that are active and ongoing. Is there a specific standard that's been set for a conflict of interest for the Board of Supervisors of Elections? And is it foreseeable that a member of the Board of Supervisors of Elections could be giving advice to a campaign, meeting with candidates informally between meetings? When it comes to advice and strategy roles, it seems like there are ways a member of the board could be engaged. 40:55. Ashley said again, it's one of those wobbly, unclear areas. But then to answer your original question, Scott, I think the only thing I don't think there's anything entitled, the election laws or the charter section that deals with what you're talking about, sort of a conflict of interest. All you would have to go off of is sort of the general ethics rules for all boards and commission members, which cover things like money, but would not probably address as much of the stuff you're talking about because there's just general ethics rules for everybody. They are not tailored for an election board. Scott ends with thank you at 41:34. That was after 9 minutes and 4 seconds, specifically talking about me and my campaign fund. So what were you thinking, Eileen? Or do you think, hearing these falsehoods, accusations, assumptions, slanderous and defaming remarks that were made about me, that lasted almost 10 minutes. What did you think at the time? And why didn't you defend me or say anything to stop these comments, knowing that this was a reporting issue and not about my campaign account being closed? My campaign account has been closed since 2022, and the official letter from my bank was sent on March 11th, 2022 to confirm my account's closing. That was shared with you all at the time where I was not chair, nor was I on the board. And I needed to confirm that before I was appointed to the board. So not only did you both support my first and second term as chair, knowing all that I went through and did to resolve my campaign reporting matters, but both Lonnie Moyer and Gavin trusted my leadership enough to put my name forth and appoint me. So technically, Scott is not only trying to attack me, but also you all. I never trusted nor believed that Scott should have been appointed to this task force. I made that quite clear. And after this, I am ever more confident in that. He has no place on this task force in my mind. And I do not support his volunteer membership. The first time I saw this was when he just emailed you, Eileen, and Debbie about his interest to serve, while knowing I was chair at the time. Why wouldn't he include me on that email?
Because we're the ones that reached out to him. I reached out to him separately on my own, and Eileen then said she had reached out to him too. We were all told to gather people. We were all told to reach out to people. We were doing that, and she reached out without me knowing. I reached out without telling anyone, and that's why he responded. And he even told me when he responded, I'm responding to you because you reached out to me. That's why you weren't included in that.
Okay.
I'm kind of blown away, Keanu, by what you're saying.
Yeah, I am too. I was blown away hearing all of this. And I'm blown away too that Eileen, you didn't speak up or say anything. So I wonder, what were you thinking at the time and why didn't you speak up or defend me?
Okay, can I talk?
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Talk now that I'm finished. Because in the other meetings, you talk over others or you interrupt without the chair even giving you permission. I do want to talk about that in a moment, because I spoke with some of the membership of the task force, and I have some things that I think can come to terms with agreeing to. And Debbie, honestly too, you're not a part of this. I don't believe you weren't on the meeting. You didn't say anything or do anything, or, I'm not saying that. And I appreciate your unbiased, and you've really been fair on all sides. Though this was very, this is not something that is acceptable. It's unacceptable. And so, Eileen, I do want to know.
Okay, you ready?
I've been ready.
I chose to take neutrality because I really felt I was not aware that this was going to happen. I did not feel that it was my place to be defending any particular person. I think the intent was looking at certain parts of the code that concern this one particular task force member, and then used it as an example. I don't think, I'm not the one that was being brought to the forefront, so I can appreciate maybe you're feeling put upon, but I don't think that was, from my perspective, I don't know. All I know is I was neutral. I didn't feel that it was appropriate in a public meeting as such that I should be speaking up for something that I wasn't very clear about. I gave the information that I was asked, which was that you had submitted a report, and up until that point, it appeared to be compliant. I had referred the person to the Office of Law. The Office of Law, Ashley Leonard was there at the time, and she gave her opinion. I do think that the points that were raised as general, were meant to be raised as general points. Like you said, any of the people that could be taken, they're looking at the code. So what happens if somebody on the Board of Elections is not, shouldn't continue on it, whether it's you or me or Debbie? And so even in your recent comments, you mentioned that. I think if your campaign report wasn't still open, these are good questions. It's unfortunate that they were directed with one person as a potential example. We have had issues in the past with in the last election in terms of people that they weren't board members, but had been involved with campaigns that might have been involved in campaign implementation. And so, some things do come up. I can appreciate your concern. I have to say very honestly, I'm a little taken aback by what I perceive as your attacks on me this evening. I also am concerned about you speaking out of turn to other task force members. I was asked by this group to be the liaison with the task force. If you are doubting, obviously it appears that you do not believe that I am a positive aspect to this, and you have questioned my ability to be on this board from the very beginning, and that concerns me. I don't think I've done anything wrong except to try to keep the communications open. I'm sorry if I speak out of turn sometimes, or I don't always get my hand raised, but I don't think this is the forum for that. I think that the task force is supposed to be asking some questions, and some of them are going to be uncomfortable. But the reality is, People for Keanu Smith-Brown was an open campaign report from March of 2021. That's the reality. It was not closed until this evening. So that's a reality. That's a fact. So I'm sorry that it got to this point. Debbie and I could be criticized for not having pushed this ourselves much sooner, but there was movement, and as far as I saw some movement, I moved forward with it. So please know that we are also being criticized. Maybe not in a public forum, but certainly it has come up.
Okay. No, I don't doubt you at all, actually. I don't believe that this was necessarily about you more than it was about your, lack of speaking up. And I asked that question specifically. I didn't say that you didn't do the right. I didn't say any of that. I didn't say that you don't deserve to be. I didn't say anything like that. But I did say that Scott. I said Scott. That's what I said. I said that because the same way that you just said what you said about my campaign and all these things, you could have said that on that meeting. Their meeting should not have. It should not have been 10 minutes focused specifically on me, and to even ask a question or imply that I should be stepping down as chair, or that I should not have been appointed as chair, and then not to clarify that it had nothing to do with the campaign account being closed, and it was, as you mentioned in the beginning of this meeting, the mathematical errors. You didn't clarify that for him.
I did not think that was a place. I was not asked by any of the task force members to speak up about that.
I wasn't there. I wasn't able to be there to speak for myself, but because you are our liaison, because you have the perspective as former chair, because you were the one leading this process as me as a candidate, and you knew all the things that I was going through at the time, you could have spoken up and given that insight.
Yeah.
Keanu, I think the fact that we're discussing this at a Board of Supervisors of
It's
Elections,
important because that's what the topic is.
but I think we have here but I think this also can be used as an example of how is it that I'm not going to go much farther, but I think we are treading on thin ice here. I think that it is best to say this was unfortunate if you want to speak with the board chair, but I would certainly respectfully ask that if you have difficulties with how I am presenting myself in the meeting, that you tell me myself and not in a public meeting. The words that you used tonight was
So
that
he could have told me himself, right? He could have said that these concerns with that. Yes, Debbie, did you have a question? Or something?
So
Can I
we're
please
all
finish?
volunteers.
Can I please finish what I was saying? But this evening in this meeting, my response, my role in this thing has been questioned by the chair. I have been, quote, speaking out of turn, and that the chair has spoken to other task force members concerning my participation on the task force. I
Not
take
me.
exception to that. I was given this role. I am doing the best that I can, and I'm very concerned that the chair of this board is pushing back on issues that I think do need to be presented, just like the whole code does. And so I'm going to have to think carefully about this.
Debbie, what were you going to say before?
Yeah, so I just want to remind us all that we're all volunteers. We all are here because we care. And you have to be a little thick-skinned in politics. And I think I did not apologize for not listening to that meeting. Wanted to get to it today, but we just got back late last night, and literally I'm just trying to recalibrate. But I would come from the perspective that it was an example, that your report was an example. Yes, I mean, you're taking it personally, obviously, and I can't say that's, I can understand that, but I really think it's a current day example of some of the things that need to be fixed. I mean, this city, in my opinion, of 40 years is quite inept in many ways. This city is an embarrassment in many ways. So we are trying to make it better. And all three of us have something to offer, but we cannot take stuff like this, personally. But Keanu, you had a lot of words going on there a little while ago.
I quoted everything that was said about me. All I did was quote everything that was said.
But it was an example that happened to be you. So I get it.
But there were many others that could have been used as an example.
But we have to choose our battles. And Eileen is the best one to be the liaison to the task force. You and I are brand new. Yeah. She has to know, she has to know when it's correct to speak up or not. And we can't micromanage that. And I don't want her to think that. And we need to support each other. I mean, there's high hopes for you, Keanu. You can't let this stuff get to you like that, because I don't think it's personal between you two, especially if you don't know each other. So just let him use it as an example of some of the many, many things that need to be fixed in the city code, the city charter, the election process, everything process, the budget. To me, I mean, there's so many, every department needs to be looked at, and how the committees work and how the council works. But that's another day. I just think we're getting into the weeds, and we're going down a slippery slope if we get into watching what everybody says every minute.
Eileen.
I'm going to go back and ask for two questions. One is, I'm still not clear, what is the falsehood that you are purporting was
And
put out.
my campaign account was still open. My campaign
Your
account
campaign
is not
report,
still open.
your
My
campaign,
reporting was just not rectified.
but it was still open. And if you
So
still,
that means the
you-
campaign account is still open?
it means the campaign is still open. And that was
You
also on
said
my,
account.
well, my understanding, and in this meeting, Ashley Leonard spoke to that. So one, again, this goes back to vagueness, but if a campaign report has not been closed, a campaign is still open. Okay, we've been working on that, and you mentioned other examples. I don't know of another example of, there have been examples, we've worked really hard on getting these other people lined up, but none of those other examples are people that are currently serving on a board or a commission. Unless, unless you're referring to a different example that you just mentioned. There are other examples. So what other example might have been used other than yourself?
For a campaign account being open?
Well, for the concerns that you're having, you were saying that you were concerned that you use as an
So
example,
so
which
the
I can
reason
appreciate.
so the reason why I brought this forth tonight is to clarify, first off, put on the record that what was shared was, I would say, wasn't just as an example, because there was how he could have phrased it, could have been less attackish, and also and more in a general way. He did not have to say, leads me to think or question about about a chair being removed, or about a person being removed. Do you really think that that was general?
I think it is. Yeah. I mean, I think it could be if you're looking at the code. Again, you just stated that there were other examples that could have been used other than yourself. And I'm just curious what those other examples are.
Other examples that were more general. So if we have a concern with candidates or people serving on boards of elections or what have you, just like Ashley said at the end, she said that it's general rules for all boards and commissions. So the same way that she said that at the end, his questioning obviously was specific to our board. It was specific to myself, because neither one of you were candidates.
Well, I was a treasurer.
And you did, you came
But
off.
your issue, come on, Debbie, you had everything straight and figured out. That's not even a part of it. So I was, so if you're telling me to be what it sounded like, a sacrificial lamb to make points, is that what you're telling me to be? Because absolutely not. I
I'm
will
not
not, I
suggesting
will
that at
not be
all.
used, I will not be used or talked about in a way such as what I heard on this last meeting. I will not be used and talked about in a way that comes off as if it's about me.
And
And
I
I'm
think,
not, and it's not about me being hurt more than it's about you. We talk about professionalism. We talk about, just when you speak and how you speak and the processes in which you do. That wasn't done on that last meeting. 10 minutes about myself specifically, when we should be talking about other and more important or ways to expand the electorate. And then you question someone who's working on electoral reform. My whole life has been about the people, making sure that the people have the power, voting rights, civil rights. And so that was questioned in this meeting when you ask or you say something as if a person who's a person that would step down immediately, who's working on all this electoral reform and step down immediately to run. What about other people's resumes, the things that they've done? A former president of a community association who decided to step down and run. What about those things? So it's not about, oh, Keanu, he's hurt, he's upset. Because first off, you need to get that in check. That's not the facts. The facts is that people need to watch what they say. And they also need to be clear in their intention in what they say. If his intention was to make sure that in the future Board of Supervisors of Election members don't get caught up in these types of issues, then why didn't he just ask that? Why did he have to bring up stepping down? Why did he have to bring up, oh, this person has had their campaign account for such a long time? Why is he putting his personal thoughts then in there about myself and not just general comments?
you're not going to, I can tell whatever Eileen and I say, you're going to think what you think. So let's just move on.
Okay,
You know, it happened. You spoke. Scott spoke. Eileen spoke. The attorney spoke. You spoke. You know, we believe in you. You know, it was an example. It is a clear case of something that needs to be addressed as a, for guidance going forward. But yes, no, you did nothing. It was nothing, subversive or, on your part, but I don't think it was on his part either. I think you're both blowing it up. Both of you may have gone a little, too detailed or perhaps, but I know both of you, and I know you both want to do what's right. And it's not about taking time to attack each other.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Debbie. Although I'm not attacking emotionally, I'm using quotes and facts, and I'm using that and perception and, perspective. But yeah, let's move forward. I did. And Eileen, the reason why I said spoke with the task force membership, because what you said, I did have to speak with the chair right away, because I felt that this was uncalled for. And I felt that this should not have ever happened in a public setting when he decided to be, or whoever selected him to be chair just because he's secretary or what have you. I don't believe he should have used that time to do this. And so I did ask that, and I will ask publicly that he not chair a meeting again. And if he were to, not to be inappropriate or share any unacceptable, tirades or what have you. And Eileen, I think from the beginning too, because sometimes you mentioned, like, I remember you actually mentioning something about people spending their outside of the board. There are other ways that people can be active. I remember you saying something similar to that. And so when I heard him say that, I thought of you. And I said to myself, Eileen is one of the most trusted and committed persons to be on this board. You've been here for years. The experience and the support that you've given, love. But that does not mean, Eileen, that we cannot bring up or call out things that are so clear. And I mean, I'm not questioning that you shouldn't be on this task force. I'm just questioning how you went about some of the things that were said. And so I did ask if in the upcoming meetings, we were invited, myself and Debbie, first Debbie and then myself, to come on as special guests to give our perspective on this priority list, because they would love to hear from us. And I think it's important for them to hear from us. And seeing that we, all can't be on the call together for quorum, then it would have to be, of course, individually. And so, Debbie, if you're interested, you've been invited to join the task force and to just hear them and share whatever you think is best. And of course, raise your hand if you have any questions or thoughts or input you would like to give. And I'm gladly going to accept that invitation to come. So whenever, I know we have some meetings coming up after the public meeting, if that one even happens, or whenever it does happen, and let's do it, because that's democracy. That we are here to help to move forward, to change and expand, not remain stagnant. And I will never, I'm always going to come with these facts. I will never be talked about, okay, in a way that I feel is, like I mentioned earlier, or defaming or slanderous. And that's really all I have to say about it. So we're at the end of this meeting, and the agenda shares that it's adjournment. Are there any thoughts or questions or anything moving forward?
Well, regarding the task force public hearing tomorrow, I know we asked them to have one, maybe two. If tomorrow is not well done, then, I hope they'll try again.
Well, they're prescribed by the city code resolution to have one, and I believe they will.
Right, but tomorrow's one. Tomorrow won't count as one.
can have more than one, but
Yeah.
if we don't hold it tomorrow. Then it
Yeah,
can't.
I just want to make sure if tomorrow doesn't go, or even if it is short, that I would encourage a second one. You know, regardless.
I mean, they're working on that. And that's what
Yeah.
I mentioned when
Yeah,
I was saying that they're looking at doing some updates.
right.
Um,
And what, September 22nd, I think, is their deadline, right? Yeah,
Right, but they're working going into subcommittees and things like that. Subcommittees don't need to be on public. I mean, they're really going to start working hard on getting down into talking with voters, talking with citizens, and getting that information.
okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Well, we're here. Is there a motion to? No, I prepared for weeks for this. I just wanted to get it out and really, I'm glad that we were able to have this conversation. This is how we grow. This is really important. And is there a motion to adjourn? Blessings and love to everybody. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn at 6:28.
6:28
Second,
PM. Second, all in favor. That's myself.
aye.